You know, when I talked to Anjali about the fashion forum a couple of days ago, and she says, come and moderate a session, and I hadn't done this for a while. I quickly pulled out some of my old notes from the time I used to teach at NIFT, and I said, I need an opening statement. What should I do? I found something, which was a statement made by Jeff Bezos almost 18 years ago. I still remember when I first read it, I was totally intrigued about it, and I said, what the hell does all this mean? Today, it resonates with each one of us. I will read it out to you. He said, don't build stores, build stories. Don't conduct commerce, create communities. Don't sell mass, sell me. Don't measure sales, measure experiences. Don't train, rehearse. It couldn't be more apt for the present times. Retailers must start from the premise that their stores are stock, people, and merchandising is merely an empty stage. The story, the narrative, the action, and the interaction are what brings this stage to life. Extremely honored to have with me this panel of retail specialists who will help us decode a little bit about what we call connected consumption. There's been a lot of talk since the morning about various aspects of fashion, retail. In my conversation with them just before walking into the room, I think there were some very interesting insights that did come in. But there were a lot of re-words that Rajul used for us, yes? Re-engineer, reimagine, rethink, rework, reset, responsible. I want to basically start with who is the new consumer? How do we reset to this new consumer after coming out of this 2 years of pandemic? I would like to start with Vineet. Yep. This is something I said, who are we talking to? Who are we addressing? What is the product that he wants to buy from us anymore? Has that changed? And how much has changed?
So I think pandemic has been a big reset for many things, but I think the consumer today also is the same consumer who wants to engage with the brand and then experience the brand and then end of the day consume the brand. I think it's not changed over the years, it still remains same. In the context of India especially, I think that experience matters much more than other parts of the world where people still they are fine with less engagement, less experience, and but I think in our country, it's still more engagement. People love to come to the stores. It's not shopping. This is entertainment, right? People come with families. They spend time. They touch, feel, try, and then buy. While I know a lot is changing around the digital world and e-commerce is definitely fueling that, but if you look at the return rates on e-commerce, I think they're doing the same. The houses have become the trial rooms. The houses have become where they're experiencing the product, touch, feel, and then when they don't like it, they send it back. Our e-commerce businesses have made it easy for them. So it's virtually the same. Nothing much has changed. But yes, there are these new consumers that are coming in, which is the young India. We are one of the youngest demographically countries in the world, which obviously is much more digitally savvy. They spend many hours on screen. We have the highest screen time in the world. Plus with cheap 4G, 5G on the way, majority of the people having smartphones. There are things that are changing. And I think that's where brands like us will have to figure out how do we engage, make that experience, and then do commerce.
I want to just interrupt here. Is there a change in product categories? Because the way we live has changed. We worked from home, educated from home. There was a lot of outbound migration. Have you thought of new product categories that are coming up? Is there a scope there?
So I think we've been in the space where we are actually in the casual space of the consumer, whether it's men, women, and kids. So we've not seen a major shift. Athleisure definitely is a little bit of a shift that we are seeing, but we've seen the same category mixes once we've come out of, we've moved out of the pandemic. During the pandemic, definitely bottoms were a big challenge because what we saw on screen was just the top part of it, right? Like it's about the cosmetics. The lipstick sales just tanked because everyone was wearing masks. So it's the same. So top wear did go up a little bit when during the pandemic, but our category mixes are back to what it used to be. Athleisure definitely has seen accelerated growth because I think its fitness has come up. Also, people are more happy wearing those clothes and now going to these offices, some offices, not every, but that way is a little bit of change in the category we've seen.
Sanjeev, what do you have to say about it? I also want to touch upon a little bit about the new consumer in terms of the buzzword is sustainability, conscious consumption. Is the Indian consumer sensitive to that?
Well, so I'll take the first part of your question. So what has happened is the way the consumer's behavior has changed. Of course, I mean, as Vineet said that, you know, the entire pandemic has changed the way that people kind of shop, and they were more online. But for us as a brand, you have to understand that we juggle with two pieces of consumers. One is the Gen Z, and the other is the matured customer. And not too matured. When I say matured, in the sense they're anywhere between 25 to 35. And that's where, you know, they buy, conscious purchase happens and all of that. So we're juggling with both. We can't let go of any one of them because both are important for us. But what has happened is, there's been a lot of casualization that has now moved into including boardrooms. And there's a lot of casualization which is happening in workplaces. And rightly, as Vineet said, you know, bottom wear was a struggle, but, you know, top wear was moving pretty well. Right now, bottom wear is picking up and moving where it was. India and Bharat, these are two parts of the same coin, but India is picking up, India is connected, so is Bharat. So what has happened is people who had no other option but now had to go online and buy things online are now used to it. So we have kind of jumped that phase and moved quickly into the phase where even Bharat is now ordering online. So much so that, you know, anywhere, I mean, given another year or so, I mean, for us it would be about 30-35% of online consumption. So that is where the consumer is moving. Coming to sustainability, I think the way I look at it, sustainability is a very loosely used term, right? So what is sustainability? I mean, I don't want to name any brands here, but there are many international brands who say that we are sustainable. So can the normal consumer understand how much of a particular, garment is sustainable? What is the ethical sourcing that has been done? So this is very similar to FMCG, where now, you know, there are laws which are going to come out saying that, hey, the consumer needs to know what a monosodium glutamate is. You have to tell the consumer. So the same way, sustainability is a very loosely used term.
Yeah, I think it's you know, I mean, I read somewhere there are 25 boxes that can define sustainability in garments. How many do you tick before you call yourself sustainable?
Absolutely.
That's the big question over here.
Yeah. So we at Being Human have just one very clear focus. For us, sustainability is definitely there, and it's a part of our entire philosophy. But other than that, we just, whenever we do anything, we just look at those two words: are we being human? Yeah. And we apply that to every single part of our processes. So whether it is, so if people don't know, let me just tell them that every single store of ours has a specially abled person. Just now, I have, spoken to somebody from the Army Welfare Association, and we are planning to recruit wounded soldiers who are taken off duty, and for them the problem is they cannot go back to normal life in their village because they have lived a disciplined life, and it's very difficult for them to settle down there, and at the same time they are not in active service. So what do? That's where we are being human and coming in and recruiting them, and they can come in as store managers, regional managers, area managers, and who knows, we might have, people heading HR.
Yeah, I think somewhere every company, every brand will have to define that for themselves and see what is applicable to them. Vineet, you wanted to come in?
I think on a sustainability, I think this is something we must do. It needs to be, as he said, needs to be the ethos of the company. And I think businesses have to take business goals to it. If you just want to keep saying sustainability, it's not going to happen. Unless it's not the core business objective of the organization, it's not going to work. I'll give you, we are a global company and we work a lot on sustainability. We've declared goals publicly called Fashion Forward. That is our 2025 goal. Out of which there are many elements of how much cotton, how much. Like I'll give you one example. We declared that by 2022 end, we will produce solar energy equivalent to the energy we consume globally. We delivered that in 21, 1 year ahead of it despite the pandemic. So we have a solar farm in Denmark that actually generates the entire electricity that we consume globally. Because it cannot be done at a store level or because it's split. So I think people will have to find right business goals to it, and then it becomes part of your DNA, and then you can deliver it. But if you keep saying, oh, I want to be sustainable, it's not going to happen, or I'm sustainable, not going to happen.
Every company needs a roadmap, really, and saying in the next 5-10 years, carbon emissions, wastewater management, inclusivity, diversity, we look at various factors. Coming to you, I want you to, we were just having a conversation, is retail is a reflection of life at some level. What we do is really what we are going through life. But retail has changed, has dramatically changed, will continue to change. But there are some old tenets of retail which will continue to be there. I want you to tell us what is it that is still applicable and that we will carry forward with us.
Yeah, thanks, Armi. Well, while we are today talking of the entire digital world, we've gone on to Metaverse, we've gone on to NFTs, we've gone on to AI. The fact of the matter is, there is an experience in retail that all of us seek. And all of us are consumers in some form or the other. And trust me, just as much as you know for yourself, you knock that part of that experience out of the game, and you're not going to have a satisfactory purchase process. So there are parts of retail that still are so important to all of us as individuals. While the entire industry, the retail industry, is going through this transformation, pretty fundamental transformation as it were, but the things that we want, the experiences that we want, are only going to probably accelerate, are only going to accentuate, and I think COVID has actually done that. Expectation levels have gone up so much beyond what it was in the past. In the past, if you were willing to wait, for example, to get your product, okay, next month the product will come. Well, thanks to e-commerce, you made sure that you get it, within 24 hours, or in some cases, as I heard in some parts of the world, you probably have it even at your doorstep before you know that you needed the product. So expectations have gone up, but the essential elements of that shopping experience, the fact that you want to be in a store, you want to be well regarded, you want to be greeted, you want to have products explained to you, you want to try them, use them, wear them, and then make that purchase. That part is not going to go away in a hurry. There's a lot of technology that can simulate some of that, but trust me, well, would you want to eat your food on Metaverse? Would you want to buy an apparel without ever touching the fabric and figuring out whether it goes easy on your skin? While on that topic, just a couple of points that came up earlier on sustainability, for example. I think it's only a matter of time. While I understand that, it's not clearly defined for every industry. What is sustainable for that particular industry is not clearly defined. I think it's a matter of time before it does get defined. Let me give you an example for leather. There is the leather working group that exists all across the world who have clearly defined in leather, what do you mean when you talk in terms of a sustainable leather product? Now, they have gone many steps ahead. Leather is a polluted industry. So they have gone ahead and described and absolutely qualified what calls for sustainable leather. Some of the products that we produce come from that. In fact, some of the products that we produce at Fossil actually are not even leather, but it's vegan leather in a form, in the sense that it comes from cactus. So you've got alternative materials that simulate leather, that actually is a natural fabric, is a natural material, but gives you the same look, feel, touch of leather, but is not leather. But even within leather, it's possible to have a far more sustainable product. So I think it's only a matter of time before sustainability in terms of a defined objective is going to come to every industry. So when you look at watches, for example, one of our brands in our portfolio is the brand Skagen. It comes from Denmark, and I think Vineet here would subscribe to the fact that the Scandinavian countries are far more advanced in the area of sustainability than many others. So this is a Danish brand that we have in our portfolio. I think in the next 2 months, 95% defined by percentage of that product is going to be sustainable. What does that mean? It means the stainless steel that we use in that product is recycled stainless steel. So it's not virgin, which means that you've taken stainless steel that was used earlier, you've reprocessed it, brought it up to the same quality level as virgin stainless steel, but are using it in a product. Right? The leather is going to be certified by the leather working group, as it were. So I think it's a journey. We are early in that journey. I think all of us are conscious of what we are doing to the environment. And I think consumers are even more conscious. We are now, a lot of our brands are talking to very young consumers. And they are going to have a far greater voice in this game than even the companies have. So we are going to have to address and face up to that problem.
I couldn't agree with you more. The younger consumer is very, very conscious, and they are going to probably force a lot of the company to walk this path. Coming to you, Atul, the word experience in retail has been used and used and used. Should we just decode it for everybody over here? Today, everybody's saying stores will, I don't think physical retail is going anywhere. We discussed that. There's no death knell for it. But what will the new physical store be?
I think how the world has changed, it's become a lot more about personalization, and that's what physical retail always was. And the advantage was, even in the traditional MBO, you walk into a store and you actually, somebody recognizes you by name and gives you personalized service. Now a similar thing is sort of getting magnified in terms of how we approach both offline and online, and the merging of both. Everybody wants a personalized experience, they want personalized communication, and they basically want personalized products as well. And when you come to physical retail, with the convenience of what we see in terms of all the personalizations possible, what retailers are now doing is giving a better experience, wider choices. You have stores, and we've been chatting up about this, we have bigger, more experiential stores wherein the consumer is just not looking at a couple of options to decide what he wants. There is more tech within the stores in which you can actually see a wider catalog of even things which are not available in the store at that point in time, but could be delivered to you in a day or two. Originally, the thought process used to be very siloed. If you had a consumer coming into your offline store, you would just want to make a sale and end it there. The story is very different. You want the consumer to experience the brand. And that is where you use all the technology available to ensure that the consumer is then experiencing the brand and not just buying a product. I think that's there to stay, and this will only increase. And I think everybody on this panel would firmly believe that physical retail is there to stay. It's just how we look at it is continuously changing, and I think COVID has just increased the pace of that change.
It's interesting. I see the new 4 P's of marketing: purpose, positionings, partnerships. I'm forgetting the 4th one. I'll let you know. But coming back to that, I mean, I think that's what describes the new store right now. But what you just said, the role of media. Today, media is no longer just a call out to go to the stores. In fact, the role has interchanged as well. Stores have become a call out for buying opportunities. So you visit the store and then you go online and you buy it. So the role of media has changed. I think that's become very, very important, critical. The content and the strategy will help us decide. I'm going to start with Vineet, back to you. I've just been told I have very little time to finish this, so let's just discuss this important point and then we wrap up. Yeah, so the role of media, content, strategy, and communication. And I also think we should touch upon a little bit on L-commerce, live commerce as well, live commerce, and the new word consumer commerce. I'll come to that later.
So I think I agree with you that the media has changed. There was a time when digital media was just not existing, and the only media was physical media that we used to do, hoardings, other stuff. But I think the main media is now, because especially in our country where data is cheap, phone accessibility is high. Also, engagement is far, far higher. We love to spend time. We love to understand the brand. And I think earlier there used to be this divide of offline, online. I think that divide has just gone up. It's become one commerce. And I think that's for the good part of it. I think at least we can kill all those debates on whether we should do Omni, not Omni. Everything is Omni today. And I think it really works seamlessly. I think there are new emerging medias of doing businesses. Live commerce is one of them. I think we've tested some places and it really works. So one is how much you do with live commerce, but the other is when you put those recorded videos back into your digital assets, they also generate businesses. So because consumers want to know. See, when you were in a store, you can actually go and interact with the guy and say, what suits, what works, this is the occasion I'm buying. And here someone is trying to tell you, okay, if you're trying to go for this occasion, why don't you buy this? And I think we heard about this during our chat of how someone in China is selling perfumes, and it was brilliant, right? And I think this is going to stay. But I think the other part of this, which I think Rajul also mentioned, is Metaverse, and I think we had a long chat over this. I think it's too early days. I think whoever wants to try it needs to know the purpose for it, what is the ROI for it, and then go and try it. I'll give you an example of, because I think still the Metaverse in India is very tough. We still are struggling for basics in our life, and a lot of Bharat actually.
I said we were all living in a universe.
Yeah.
We've all moved into
So
the Metaverse, but we need to decode that.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what it is, because there are so many question marks. So I did speak to my panel before coming in here. So
yeah,
here
so I
we
think
go.
this two India, which we keep talking, is that one India is this Delhi, Bombay, affluent. For them, obviously, maybe because they've evolved, I think, and for them definitely they are. But this is Bharat, which is now started to consume commerce. For them, it's still about buying that next T-shirt or a shirt, and it's a physical product that need. So I think we tried started this 3 years back. We have a digital store. It's a Metaverse environment. It's called Jack and Jones Unmatched Studio, where you can actually wear a VR set and go into that environment, but buy physical products. So you can experience, personalize the product. Also, as I said, personalization, as you said. I think those are things that we need to do. But I think people need to find the right use case, and there needs to be commerce related to it. I don't think it's mainstream on it. It's more experiential for us also. We are also trying to have more engagement around it. So if you define the right purpose, then it's fine. But if you're thinking that it's going to be the next biggest business model in India, I think some people have to burn a lot of money before realizing that.
But the reason people are betting on it is a little bit, it's just an extension of gaming at some level.
We love these fancy names.
I am with you on that.
We love fancy names, Metaverse, NFTs.
These are, but
we all like that, right?
So my introduction to Metaverse happened through a friend, and I want to share this with you, is he's living in Paris, and he says, oh, you know what, last night I went to this party in Metaverse with a friend from Delhi, and I said, where was the party? He says, in the Metaverse. He says, so for that I needed to buy some clothes, and then I did the NFTs, and I bought it with cryptocurrency. Totally threw me off. I said, what? That was my introduction. And that's what and I was talking to Sanjeev. He bought his 8-year-old son an Oculus. I think we are getting there.
So, see, as Vineet said,
I just want to
everybody
add
sitting
on
here, I
Metaverse.
presume you would like to get a perspective of Metaverse from India's perspective. That's what I think you all want to hear. So my 8-year-old is having an Oculus. He's created his avatar. He goes into all the stores, goes for these so-called kids parties till now, and he buys stuff and all of that. And just move to his cousin who lives in a tier 2 town. That poor child gets his dad's smartphone only for half an hour a day. Okay? So whatever we are talking about, Metaverse, all of this, it's still an urban thing right now. Okay? It's nice to have, good to see. There's something called Metaverse, ये हो रहा है, लोग जा रहे हैं, आप अपना avatar create कर रहे हो, all of that is happening. But at the same time, is there an ROI? Like he said, there's no ROI now, but you never know how that might change. So great. I mean, I'm eating the best of Japanese food, but I'm not eating it. I'm buying it, and my avatar is eating it. Great, man. Awesome. I mean, but will India be able to do that today? My question.
It is there for the 0.1% of India that sits here right across, but it's not for 99.9%, which are still trying to emerge,
So
right?
bottom line is ROIs. When we get them, we get them. Otherwise, we
Indians
don't.
invest into clothes. There is an investment. right? We are not buying like this and tomorrow morning saying, okay, discard this. And so though I think it is an emerging topic. As retailers and entrepreneurs, we should keep a tab on it. But I think there will be a time where you test, do a proof of concept, see what works. And if you are able to find a scalable business model, then go for it.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, and you can stop the clock, is the fact that in the same forum, Vineet, if you remember, about 4 years, 5 years back, we were talking Omni, and all of that. And today, Omni has actually become like a generic thing. The same way I feel that the whole metaverse is something that we are talking about today, and possibly 2 years down the line in the same forum, we will be sitting and saying, hey, metaverse to ho gaya, that is done. Now let's talk what's next, right? So I think it's an ever-evolving digital space which is going to occupy a very large part of the consumer's mind. And for us to be aware of it, as Vineet said, is very important for all retailers to be aware of it, or we miss the bus. But the physicality of the stores will never go away. That's what we all agreed to. And that's the truth. But at the same time, there's something which will happen which is more of a phygital retail. And that's where it stops. And I can just give you a small hint, a store which has no manpower, which has no stock, but is opening up. It will be a 1,200 square feet, 1,500 square feet store. That's what we are working on.
Experience center.
It's completely AI, AR, machine learning, you name it, it's all there. It calls you out your name when you walk into the store. All of that is happening, and that's going to happen very shortly.
Yeah, and Johnson, coming to you, power
Please
of
send me the ROI model for that, please.
Yeah. Yeah. I said, coming to you for the power of social media. We did have a talk about influencer marketing and what it does. I mean, there are a lot of question marks and a lot of people, so how much budget should I allocate to that? How powerful is it? How much reach does it have? So just talk to us a little bit about your experience in this space.
I think social media is pretty much here to stay. I mean, there's no argument. I don't think all of us, I don't know if I were to have a show of hands out of here in terms of how many people are not on social media, I guess the answer would be nil. Everybody is on social media in some form or the other. So in terms of how the communication reaches us and how brands reach us today is very different from what it was once upon a time. It's a very two-way process. It's very content-driven. It's very personality-driven. We'd rather have somebody that we know talk to us about our products than perhaps maybe the person in the store. So I'm happy with the person in the store explaining the product, but who's going to convince me to buy? Who's the one who's going to take me down to that purchase path? That's probably going to be somebody I know. Once upon a time, it was your influencer friend, but today it's going to be a whole class of influencers that are there. So I think that story is already done and dusted. If you were to look at what we do at Fossil, pretty much most of our money today is spent in digital marketing, so to speak. There's very little that we do in terms of print. There's very little that we do, in fact, practically nothing. Our consumers are all young. Bulk of our customers are in the 18 to 35, most of them being 25 to 35. It really doesn't make sense. How many of them read newspapers? Yesterday, I had a quick call out, how many people actually read a newspaper today? Out of 10 people, 3 of them read newspapers in the age group that I'm talking about. So the reality is that we are onto a digital space. Most of our money is spent there. Social media is something that we use. Influencers is something that we use. The question is to get authenticity in the whole area of influencers. I mean, Fossil as a brand, one of the key elements there is being authentic. And in that process of being authentic, I think it's very easy to get led to a point wherein you're not really true to the brand. And I think for us at Fossil, the challenge has been to make sure that if a person speaks about the brand, it actually comes, not only from the head, but it comes from the heart and not necessarily from their pocket. So we want to make sure that that journey is there. Influencers are here to stay. All of us, I'm sure all of us here in the marketing space do use influencers. It needs to be honest to the brand. It needs to be true to the brand.
I agree. I think authenticity is what's important. Be honest, cultivate your community and talk to them in their language. That is the most important thing. Atul, coming to you, a little bit more about content and strategy for communication.
See, again, though it will sound a bit repetitive, but it comes down again to personalization. Even when we are doing content, and that's where digital becomes very, very relevant. And like rightly mentioned, the old school medias of having billboards and newspapers and all doesn't work is because when you go to digital, you can actually personalize the content. You can actually show someone, I can already see him pacing, so he's giving you hints. Giving. Yeah. So
cut the mic.
yeah. So to keep it short, it's about giving relevant content to your consumer, and every consumer is different. And if you just give very standard content, that doesn't really work any longer. And that's where I think content needs to be much more suitable for the consumer and personalized. And that's where the digital media comes into play. And now that's getting so much integrating into the physical world. Even when you enter into a store, there are technologies now which can actually tell the store staff quite a bit about the consumer through all the data which we have. And that's actually the future, how you personalize the content and even how the staff deals with the consumers. Just to sort of end it, I think it's not offline, online, which one will work. It's about how you leverage both to make both of them stronger. And I think all the technologies which are coming into play today is all about leveraging one to make the other work better and vice versa.
I think the critical element is the consumer is one. Doesn't matter which way you approach the consumer, he sees only one view. It doesn't matter if he wants to buy online, shop offline, pay, digitally, all of that is part of the game today. But there's only one consumer. Let's figure out what he wants.
Yeah, find your consumer and talk to him in his language. I think that's the important part. So I think what we've talked a lot about is the experience, the personalization, the customer service. We've talked about social media. Is Amitabh here? No. So Amitabh and me were having a conversation yesterday. I come from the field of education. I've spent almost 16, 17 years. And we did think there was a little bit of a gap in terms of training or teaching people in the space of experience design. I don't think there is anything happening in terms of courses. I've been part of NIFT, Pearl, a lot of Anand University. I've done a lot of teaching. So we were debating the idea or exploring the idea of coming up with a vertical at Images where we do a little bit of education and do either EDP programs or shorter programs and start with a space like experience design management. Because I think there are gaps there. This could be programs tailor-made to some companies, to some brands, or this could be something that people could opt for. So would love to get your views and your ideas on how we should take this forward. And basically the idea is to make it not just online, but even hybrid programs. So part of it online, part of it offline, so we get a larger reach with something like this. So I am hoping to hear from more of you at the conference between today and tomorrow on this idea and see how we can work on it later. And thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience and being patient enough to sit through lunch with us. I've been told to wrap up, but I think we did take our time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay?